Queenstown. This song is the opening track of my album Cyclones and Silence, and it's the first single that I've released from this album. And I wanted to take some time to do an in-depth kind of reflection on this song, to take you through some of the lyrics, some of the sounds, and just share a little bit more of an in-depth overview of this track. It's a track that began life with my friend Matt, and he had sent me a bunch of demos. We'd been on tour in Germany and we were chatting about music making, and he was releasing instrumentals for his little project, and we got talking about demos, and I was like, oh yeah, I love receiving demos from people who have, you know, put something together, and I love writing from that. And so he was like, yeah, sure, I'll send you some demos and see if there's anything that strikes, and if so, great. And there's this one song in particular that I was just like, wow, that's really, I love the guitars on it, I like the vibe of it, and I thought it had some traction. So as is what is normal with me, when I get something like that, I just start walking around the room humming ideas, and very quickly I kind of had this tune idea, but with that tune it didn't really fit the track that he'd sent me, so I cut it up loads until I felt that it fitted in some form of a song. The thing I really loved was the intro part of what I thought could be a really nice intro, and so I wanted to keep that if possible, and then try and figure out how to take it from that down and then up again. And so that's why Queenstown has got quite an unusual song structure. If you're into kind of songwriting and song structures, this song definitely is more unusual in the way that it's structured. It's structured with an intro, a long intro, then it has a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, and an outro with a tag at the end. It doesn't have 3 choruses like a lot of my songs do. It just has a very... It feels stretched in some ways, and yet the music is really important in this particular song, and the music kind of came first before the lyrics, which again is quite unusual for me. Normally I do it both at the same time, so it was really fun to be able to work on something like that. The whole time while I was writing this, it was probably 2/3 of the way through the songwriting of this whole album, so it was one of the more reflective songs and wasn't written in real time as some of the songs were. All this album is focused on grief and loss, and my own reflections of losing my mother-in-law, the journey of saying goodbye, and reflections on grief from 6 months or so after. And so this song is one of those more reflective songs, and it's a story. It tells the story of when we went to this place called Queenstown with her, and little did we know that 6 months later she would receive a diagnosis that would be terminal. And for me, I had the best trip we've ever had together. It was really fun. There were some really special memories made, and it was all in this place called Queenstown in New Zealand. My wife's family comes from New Zealand, and we were over there visiting. Yeah, this place was just incredible. She took us on this trip and we had some beautiful moments. And so I wanted to reflect with this song the kind of place that I was in, my wife was in at the time, and some of the struggles we were having. Just life was really tough at the time, really tough, and we were just like exhausted. And so I wanted to reflect that kind of tone in the first verse, and then in the second verse reflect, oh my goodness, my mother-in-law's dying, and kind of grappling with that. I really enjoy listening to music where the writers have used place names, because it kind of means something, maybe a memory or a special thing that happened in that place. And for me, Queenstown was that special place where we had a great few days together, and captured some memories that now feel multiplied because they're memories that we won't be able to ever get back again. I wanted to write this kind of like a happy, sad, nostalgic kind of sounding song that had the feeling of saying goodbye, knowing that we'd never be on this trip again, and yet also some of those memories were super special. And so that's kind of the overall feel of this track. I've written the lyrics out here, and I thought it'd be good to just read some of them and reflect on them, and then talk about the music as well. It was your idea. You'd seen how we'd been so drained from all we'd carried with us. That's where we were at, my wife and I, at the time. This is before knowing that she was ill. Our hearts were burdened, nearly broken into, so you booked the tickets and packed the remains of us, threw us to the skies, like imagining like kind of like our whole life felt like it was being jolted from one thing to another, from one problem after another. And so like this whole thing of throwing to the skies instead of flying in the sky, still had the weight of the world, yet we landed clueless. And as if to say, like, we were carrying weights that we didn't think things could get much harder, and yet we were clueless to the fact that we were going to lose my mother-in-law, you know, within the year of this trip. The second verse talks about hearing the news that she was ill. It was deep September, barely 6 months in from our brief adventure from the parasailing. One of the things that I particularly enjoyed in that time was parasailing. I'd never done it before, and to be up in the air in this beautiful, beautiful town, mountains, lakes. If you've never been there, recommend going, and just having this incredible few minutes in the sky, just flying with the birds. And yeah, it's almost like this news was such a stark contrast to that beautiful moment of parasailing. And deep down below, it's hard to say how I knew you weren't right. Like when I just knew something wasn't right before we got the news even. It was one of those really weird kind of, something's not right here, I don't know what it is, but something's not right. Resisting the words to face your worst fight. And then the chorus talks about, this town was the home for a queen, and you were royalty. This place was the home of our dreams, our last adventure. Talking about that last adventure. Trying to think of a way to tie the name of the town and then how to express my affection that was really challenging, and grappled with quite a few different lyrics. And this was the landing point of like, you were royalty. That was, I think I had for a while, and you were one of us or something, or one of them, and it just didn't quite, yeah, and you're one of them, you're one of the special people, but that didn't quite kind of work for me. But and you were royalty just seems to have a bit more of a, I don't know, lyrical interest perhaps. And in all these nights I see your face. So this is now reflecting back and thinking 6 months on from her death, and in all these nights I see your face. It feels no harder, like it can't get any worse, but it's no better either. And there are moments we're reaching forward. It's like life is moving on and we're trying to reach forward, but I still miss you so. And living in this tension of like, life moves on, so you have to keep on moving with it, but I'm living in the past still. And all these nights, it's in my dreams, I see you in my dreams. And I think that's true, you know, when I lost my dad when I was young, I had a very real experience of dreams for you know, a whole year maybe, of the same reoccurring dream. And I think your subconscious kind of has a way of visiting you even when life keeps moving at a pace. And that's certainly been the case when I have lost people close to me. So some really nostalgic kind of themes, telling the story and then going on this journey and reflecting. There are definitely some special musical moments for me in this track, one of which is the very beginning of it. Initially we were going to release this as 2 different songs, as like the intro to the album and then the actual song, but it felt like it just needed to all fit together, so we extended it a little bit at the front end to try and make it a 30-second like intro song. Anyway, we kept all of that stuff, but we made it into one song. So going against trends of what you should do, making short songs, I went the other way and had an extended intro, but hey, this album kind of needs that. One of the things that I added in were 3 samples at the very beginning, which I'd taken from my camera while I was in New Zealand. One was of my wife and my oldest daughter playing on the beach, and there's kind of a laughter, and you can hear the wind blowing and them chatting away. The second one is of my mother-in-law laughing, and there's just a little laugh that she does right at the start of the song, and that's just a really cool thing. I seem to remember my daughter was doing something like silly and she was finding it amusing, and it just captured the moment like really well. And the third is of the sound of New Zealand summer, which to me is the cicadas. And if you've ever been to New Zealand, you'll know the sound I mean. It's just this insect chatter, and so I've kind of included all those three things as part of like the soundtrack of this song. I'm going to play you some of the music because that really helps solidify the nostalgic sound. So I'm now going to play you a bit of the track, and I thought you'd like just to hear a few of my own thoughts about this particular part. So here's some of the samples, and my mother-in-law laughing, my wife chatting to my daughter, the cicadas. And that big intro was like, you know, we wanted it to have an impact. We wanted it to kind of take you straight to that place of like, this is a driving song. Just imagine the scenery, the mountains, like driving along these massive roads, and like here we are back in Queenstown. And then it drops right down, and quite interestingly, I recorded these guitars at home, just these ones in the verse, because we were missing them from the studio session and wanted to add them in so that they had like, yeah, it just needed something extra. So you'll hear them here. That's just like it was your idea. Through my Kemper amp, and we're everything's simple, everything's stripped back, everything's like back to that place. Then come the drums, and it immediately picks up. You hear the bass. All that, you know, all the way through some of that, there's like minimal bass, lots of space, and then the bass comes in through us to the skies, and we're off. We're on this road. So in this, there's like several guitar parts that I just love, and I'll try and pick them out for you. Here we go. So that dum dum dum, that is like a big baritone, fat sounding, driven sounding guitar, and that really underpins the song for me. Then we've got another guitar part that ding 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 ding, and that's one of Matt's guitar parts that I re-recorded and made a tiny bit more gritty. And there's lots of that kind of ding 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 kind of palm muting. If you're a guitarist, you'll know what I mean. There it is. And then this section is, from a songwriting point of view, the second section that really opens up. So you've got the two lines of that, and we're holding back until this, and in all these nights I see your face, where the guitar part comes in. So listen out for that. Da 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 da. da da da. Kind of waiting for those moments is really cool. They're octaves as well, so it's da 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 da, and then lower is like da 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 da. So yeah, I mean that just makes the track for me, and got to give credit to Matt for that because that was his part, his idea. This then enters into what is probably my favourite part of the song, and it's my favourite part because it just has this kind of it pulls back enough, but it's still got momentum, and I love the drums in here. I love the synths, the pulsing synths, the arpeggiators. Baritone guitar there. And here we go, back in with the bass. I love that part. Here we go. So I just love how like those little stabby bits with the lower bass just like really opens up that part of the track. The drums are still going, shuffling along. My drum affairs, you know, just incredible groove. And because it's a mid-tempo song, it doesn't need to be pushed too hard, and I love how it just sits back and it just allows the guitars and the bass to come in and out, and the keys have their place while the drums is just holding the rhythm, and just the groove and the feel of the song really comes from the drums, in my opinion. Big chorus. Dum bum bum. Wait for the keys coming in a sec. Listen to the keys. Here we go. Love that. That's my 2-pack keys. And there's like a mix of like which are more the keyboard keys, and then the which is more of the retro synth keys, which are not so 2-packy. And I love how Ian has used both of those and kind of brought them in and out. Just really, really happy with those parts that he made. And then we're going to get into the release of the song, so I'm just going to rewind slightly. Here we go, wait for the break. Dum dum. And I was really like unsure about what to play on that solo, because I'd in my demo, over the top of Matt's demo, I'd made another guitar part which just kind of, for me, had a bit more like drive, pushing the song forwards. But in discussion with Ian, my producer, we were really talking about how do we get like a solo to support what's already happening without taking away, because there's a lot of guitars going on. And so we stripped it back and really went kind of single lines, and then da 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 da. You'll hear them. Da, 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 da. And the keys mirror a lot of the guitars. Da, 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 da. So there you have it, Queenstown, one of my favourite songs on the album. Couldn't have done it without the co-write support from Matt, and I hope you enjoy listening to it in maybe a deeper level.